If you've seen headlines saying your free bus pass could end in February 2026, stop scrolling, because what you've been told is only half the story. And if you rely on your bus pass to get to the shops, the doctors, or just to stay independent, this video could save you a lot of unnecessary worry. I'm going to explain exactly what's changing, what's not changing, and why millions of people are panicking for no reason. But there are things you must know before February. Stay with me till the end, because one small detail could catch people out. Before we go any further, let me say this. If you're someone who depends on your bus pass, your pension, or benefits just to live with dignity, this channel is genuinely for you. I break things down clearly, honestly, and without scaremongering, because you deserve the truth, not clickbait. So if you want updates that actually protect your independence, hit subscribe now. Not for algorithms, but so you don't miss information that affects your daily life. Right, let's have a proper chat about what's actually going on with the UK free bus pass, because there's been a lot of confusing headlines flying about, and it's left a lot of people worried, especially those who rely on their bus pass every single day. You might have seen dates like the 18th of February 2026 mentioned, or other dates in early February, and you're probably wondering if your free travel is about to disappear. The good news is that the free bus pass isn't being scrapped, so you can take a breath. But there are some changes happening to how the system works, and it's worth understanding what's actually going on so you're not caught out. Let's start with the basics. The free bus pass in England is part of something called the English National Concessionary Travel Scheme. It's a government-backed program that allows certain people to travel for free on local buses during what they call off-peak hours. This scheme has been around for years, and it's been an absolute lifeline for millions of older people and disabled residents right across the country. It's not just about saving a few quid on bus fare, although that's certainly helpful when money's tight. It's about being able to get to your doctor's appointments, do your weekly shop, visit family and friends, and generally stay connected to your community without having to worry about whether you can afford the journey. For many people, especially those on fixed incomes or pensions, the bus pass represents independence and freedom. It means you're not stuck at home, isolated and cut off from the world around you. Now, the reason there's been so much talk about changes in February 2026 is because different local councils across England are updating their administrative procedures around this time. There is no single UK-wide change that takes effect specifically on any one date in February EduWeb. What's happening is that various councils are modernizing how they manage the scheme, tightening up on verification checks, and making sure the system is being used properly. The dates you've seen mentioned, whether it's the 8th, 9th, 10th, 13th, 16th, or 18th of February, are basically when different local authorities are rolling out their own specific updates. It's not one big nationwide change happening all at once. So what exactly is changing? Well, the first thing to understand is what's not changing, because that's actually the most important bit. If you already have a valid bus pass, your entitlement remains secure, your pass will continue to work as normal until its expiry date, and there is no nationwide cancellation of passes keeperscopicing. You don't need to panic, and you don't need to reapply just because of these February changes. The core benefit of free off-peak bus travel for eligible people is staying exactly as it is. The rules about who qualifies haven't suddenly been rewritten overnight. What is changing is more about the behind-the-scenes administration and how councils are managing the scheme to make sure it's fair and sustainable for the long term. One of the main things councils are doing is strengthening their verification procedures. Many local authorities have noticed a rise in early boarding and the use of expired passes, which puts a financial strain on the system Gemcast Limited. To tackle this, new digital scanning technology is being activated on buses across England that will automatically reject passes if they are used before the official off-peak start time Gemcast Limited. Now, this isn't about making life difficult for genuine pass holders. It's about making sure that the money that funds this scheme is being spent properly and that people who aren't actually eligible aren't taking advantage. The technology will also help spot passes that have expired or aren't valid anymore. For most people who are using their pass correctly, you shouldn't notice much difference. But if you've ever tried to board a bus a few minutes before 9:30 in the morning, you might find that drivers are less flexible about letting you on early now. Speaking of timing, let's talk about when you can actually use your free bus pass. Under the national rules in England, free travel is what they call off-peak, which generally means from 9:30 in the morning until 11 o'clock at night on weekdays, and then all day long on weekends and bank holidays. The new system updates mean the card readers simply won't accept the pass until the clock strikes 9:30 Gemcast Limited. In the past, some bus drivers might have let you on a couple of minutes early if it wasn't busy, but that's changing. The technology is now enforcing the rules more strictly. It's worth noting that some local councils do offer travel at earlier times as an extra benefit on top of the national scheme, but that varies depending on where you live. The February updates don't change the basic national off-peak hours, but they do make it clearer what those hours are and when your pass will actually work. Another big area of change is around renewals. Many councils are moving toward online renewal systems, and paper renewals may still be available, but digital platforms are being prioritized Camden FOE. If your pass is coming up for renewal in 2026 or beyond, you might be asked to upload proof of your identity, confirm your address details, and verify your entitlement online. Councils will introduce enhanced verification procedures when issuing or renewing passes Camden FOE, which includes stronger proof of residency checks, national insurance number verification, and in some areas, digital ID confirmation. Now, before you start worrying that this sounds complicated, it's worth saying that for most genuine applicants, the process should still be straightforward. If you're not comfortable doing things online, council helplines and in-person support will still be available to help you through it. The goal isn't to make it harder for eligible people to get their pass. It's to reduce duplication and prevent people from claiming passes they're not entitled to. Let's talk about who actually qualifies for a free bus pass, because this is where some of the confusion has crept in. In England, there are basically two main groups of people who can get one. The first group is older people who have reached what's called the state pension age. Now, this is really important to understand. The qualifying age for a bus pass in England is not a fixed number like 60 or 65. It's directly tied to the state pension age, and that age has been gradually rising over the years. The free bus pass age increases from 66 to 67 in 2026, in line with the state pension age changes, and anyone born after April 1959 will need to reach age 67 before they can get a free concessionary bus pass, Montreux Bistro. This isn't a new February 2026 decision. It's part of a long-term government policy that's been in the works for ages. If you're approaching retirement age and wondering when you can apply for your bus pass, you need to check your own specific state pension age, which you can do on the government website. Everyone's date is slightly different depending on when you were born. The second group who can get a free bus pass are disabled people. And the good news here is that disabled bus passes operate under different eligibility rules based on specific medical or mobility criteria rather than pension age. And the February 2026 changes do not remove disabled categories keeper-scoppusing. People who qualify due to severe mobility limitations, visual impairment, or other recognized conditions remain eligible under the existing frameworks. However, councils may update their documentation requirements. So if you're applying for or renewing a disabled person's pass, you might need to provide fresh medical evidence or updated information about your condition. If you have moved house recently or your personal independence payment award has changed, you must inform your local transport office immediately, as failing to update your details could lead to your pass being deactivated during the new system checks Gemcast Limited. This is really important because the councils are being more thorough about checking that people who hold disabled passes still meet the criteria and are living in the area where they're claiming the pass. It's also worth mentioning that the rules are different depending on which part of the UK you live in. The February changes we've been talking about mainly affect England. In Scotland and Wales, residents can still qualify for a free bus pass at the age of 60 Gemcast Limited, which creates what some people call a postcode lottery. Scotland has its own national entitlement card system. Wales runs its own concessionary travel scheme, and Northern Ireland manages travel concessions through its own regional authority. If you live in these other nations, your pass generally allows for more flexible travel times compared to the English system. The changes happening in February 2026 are primarily about England, although Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland may introduce their own updates separately at different times. Now let's address some of the scary headlines and false claims that have been floating around on social media and in some news stories. The February 2026 update does not remove free off-peak bus travel nationally, introduce means testing, require pensioners to reapply from scratch, or end the concessionary scheme keeper-scopping. The structure of the scheme remains rooted in age-based and disability-based eligibility, just as it always has been. There has been no announcement from the government saying that free bus travel for pensioners and disabled people is being taken away. What you're seeing is administrative tightening and local council adjustments to make the system work better and more fairly, not a removal of the benefit itself. That said, it's true that some local councils are facing budget pressures, and they might review what are called local enhancements. These are extras that some councils offer on top of the basic national scheme. Things like allowing travel before 9:30 in the morning, offering companion passes for carers, or including discounted rail add-ons. Councils facing budget pressures may review local enhancements, such as companion passes or extended peak hour travel, and these decisions vary by region Camden FOE. So while the core national entitlement is protected, you might find that some of the nice extra perks your local council used to offer are being looked at again. This is one of those situations where it really does depend on where you live, because councils have different levels of funding and different priorities. So what should you actually do in light of all these changes? First and foremost, check whether your pass is still valid and when it expires. If it's coming up for renewal soon, keep an eye out for communications from your local council. Make sure your contact details are up to date so you don't miss any important letters or emails. Check your state pension age, visit your local council website, prepare proof of identity and address, and gather any required medical documentation if applying under disability grounds keeper-scopping. If you've moved house recently, changed your name, or had any changes to your disability status or benefits, make sure you tell your council about it. The last thing you want is for your pass to be deactivated because the records aren't current. If you're new to the bus pass system and you're wondering how to apply, the process is generally quite straightforward, though it is becoming more digital. You'll typically need to visit your local council's website or the government website for your region, complete an online form with your personal details, and upload identification documents like your passport, driving license, or birth certificate. You'll also need to submit a recent photograph for your pass card. For disabled applicants, you'll need to provide medical proof of your condition. Once your application is approved, you'll receive either a physical card or, in some areas, a digital pass that you can use on your phone. The passes are typically valid for 5 years from the date of issue, and you should receive a reminder a few months before it expires. It's also really important to understand that the bus pass only covers certain types of travel. It's for local bus services in England if you've got an English pass. It doesn't automatically work on coaches, trains, trams, or the London Underground, although London's Freedom Pass does have different rules. The English bus pass provides free travel only on local bus services in England and does not automatically grant free travel in Scotland, Wales, or Northern Ireland keeper-scopping. If you travel frequently across borders between England and the other UK nations, you should check in advance what the reciprocal arrangements are, because they can be complicated. Let's also talk about the bigger picture of why these changes are happening. The government's position is that the bus pass scheme is important and valuable, but it also needs to be financially sustainable in the long term. The scheme costs a significant amount of public money every year because millions of people use it, and every free journey has to be paid for somehow. Local councils receive funding from central government to reimburse bus companies for the free journeys, and that funding system is being updated from April 2026. The changes in February are partly about preparing for that new funding arrangement and making sure councils have accurate information about who's eligible and how the passes are being used. There's also been an issue with passenger numbers being uneven since the pandemic, and operating costs for buses have gone up, which puts pressure on the whole system. Add to that the fact that people are living longer, which is great news, but it does mean more people qualify for bus passes for longer periods of time, which increases the overall cost. Some people have questioned whether it's fair that the qualifying age keeps rising, especially when you look at the differences across the UK. There was actually a petition that gathered more than 100,000 signatures calling for free bus travel to be available from age 60 across the whole of England, just like it is in Scotland and Wales. This triggered a formal debate in Parliament. Some MPs have highlighted that people in their early 60s often face significant financial pressures and shouldn't be assumed to be wealthy just because they're approaching retirement age. The government's response has been that linking bus pass eligibility to state pension age keeps the system consistent with other retirement-related benefits and helps with long-term planning. Whether you agree with that or not, it's the policy that's currently in place, and it doesn't look like it's going to change in the immediate future. For those of you who already have a bus pass and are wondering if your day-to-day experience of using it will feel different, the honest answer is probably not much. For the vast majority of bus pass holders, everyday use will feel exactly the same Airbus Express. You'll still be able to travel free during off-peak hours, you'll still use the same card or digital pass, and you'll still get on the bus the same way you always have. The main differences you might notice are that timing is being enforced more strictly. So arriving even a minute or two before 9:30 in the morning might mean you can't board for free, and you might find the renewal process requires a bit more paperwork or online activity than it used to. The card readers on buses are also becoming more sophisticated, which means they're better at spotting expired or invalid passes, so make absolutely sure your pass is current and hasn't expired. It's also worth saying that if you run into any problems or have questions about your specific situation, don't rely on social media posts or secondhand information. Go straight to your local council's website or phone their transport team directly. They're the ones who actually administer the scheme in your area, so they'll have the most accurate and up-to-date information about what's happening locally. Every council is slightly different, and what's true in one area might not be true in another, so it's always best to check with your own authority. Looking ahead, the bus pass scheme isn't going anywhere. It's been a part of UK public policy for years, and it's recognized across all political parties as an important support for older and disabled people. The changes happening in February 2026 are about evolution rather than revolution. They're about making the system work better, reducing fraud and misuse, and ensuring that the funding is going to the people who genuinely need it and qualify for it. Yes, there are some administrative changes that might feel a bit unfamiliar at first, especially if you're not particularly confident with technology or online systems. Yes, the qualifying age is rising in line with state pension age, which means some people will have to wait a bit longer to get their pass than they might have expected. And yes, some local councils might have to review the extra benefits they offer on top of the national scheme. But the fundamental entitlement to free off-peak bus travel for eligible older and disabled people is protected and will continue. In summary, the UK free bus pass is not ending on the 18th of February 2026 or any other date in February. What's happening is that councils across England are implementing updated administrative procedures around that time to modernize the system, tighten up verification, and make sure passes are being used correctly. The core scheme remains in place, eligibility rules based on state pension age and disability status haven't changed, and if you already have a valid pass, you can keep using it as normal. The main things to be aware of are that off-peak timing is being enforced more strictly, renewal processes are becoming more digital and thorough, and you need to keep your details up to date with your council. The February changes are administrative adjustments, not a removal of the benefit. If you're eligible and your pass is valid, you'll still be able to travel free on local buses during off-peak hours, just as you always have. So don't panic, check your pass is current, make sure your council has your correct contact details, and carry on traveling with confidence. The bus pass remains one of the UK's most valuable public benefits, and it's here to stay.